Hello, welcome to Coach Michael 101, where we listen to music, watch movies, check out other miscellaneous mayhem, and hopefully have some fun along the way. If you like what you see, hit the like button, definitely leave a comment down below, subscribe, turn on the post notifications so you don't miss a thing. Today we're going to check out 1980s forgotten fads. I am an 80s kid. That's when I was in high school and junior high. So this will definitely bring back some memories. And just curious to see how many fads participated in, and if I still do. And if leave a message down below how many you were a victim of, and if you are still a victim of them. All right, let's check it out. Ready? Let it roll.
The 1980s was a decade of bright colors,
Great
big
movies.
hair, and lots of
Cyndi
flair. If you grew up
Knew
during
lots of
that
people who
time,
looked
then I'm
really
sure you have
cool.
some fond memories. Some of the items that came
Of course, right off the bat, you have Eddie Van Halen and Michael Jackson, two legendary 80s icons. Eddie, of course, played on Michael's Thriller album, played the guitar solo for Beat It. And really, that's what helped kind of catapult Michael into that next level, because now Michael Jackson songs, instead of being just played on, top 40 and R&B stations, were actually getting played on rock stations. So it really, really elevated his fan base. Great stuff.
seemed futuristic at the time, but many of them have
Pedro.
paved the way for how things are today. In this video, we will have a closer look at some of the fads of the 1980s.
What you gonna do, brother?
The boombox was introduced to the American market during the late 1970s, but it was the 1980s when this became super popular.
I definitely
Some of
have
these boomboxes were quite large and about the size of a suitcase.
kept it in the garage.
They required 8 to 10
Or out by the
D-cell
pool.
batteries, which would last 6 to 8 hours, depending on whether or not you
I
were
also
using
had
the
it
cassette
strapped to the
player.
handlebars of my
If
bicycle.
you had one of these, then maybe you cranked up Van Halen or Bon
Yes.
Jovi.
Southern
But there's a
California,
good chance
we were
that it
Van
was
Halen.
playing Run DMC, LL Cool J, or the Beastie Boys. The boombox was heavily associated with
first.
urban communities, which is where it got the nickname Ghetto Blaster. Some cities tried to ban the stereos from being used in public places, and over
Really?
time they became less acceptable on city streets. However, this was a necessary item when you were b-boying or b-girling and showing
You don't
off
see
your
shorts
latest
like
moves.
that anymore.
The boombox culture reached
that
its peak
couch.
in 1986 with 20.5 million units sold. Fast forward to 2003 and there were only 329,000 units sold. Personal listening devices such as the Walkman and the Discman were responsible for the decline of the boombox. Today, people have become accustomed to their
Great visual from
smartphone
the
and a
movie Say
Bluetooth
Anything.
speaker rather than a boombox.
Little Beastie Boys.
Breakdancing is a form of hip-hop dancing that appeared to defy human
never was into
bendability
breakdancing.
and gravity. It was
Although in
originally
junior
called breaking,
high,
but the media labeled it
Southern
as
California,
breakdancing.
A lot of kids would
This art
breakdance
form
at
seems to have
lunch.
originated in Bronx, New York during the 1970s, but it was the 1980s when it exploded all over the world.
Lunchtime, they
B-boys
were out there
and
dancing.
B-girls would face off in an impromptu dance competition where the only things needed were cardboard
Yeah,
and a
cardboard.
boombox. Oh, and of course a lot of practice. These highly talented and athletic dancers
Love the
spent hours
jumpsuits.
and hours perfecting their skills. Soon recess became a time when kids were doing the wave,
Yes,
caterpillar, top rock, down rock, windmills, head spins, and
Cabrillo
more.
junior highs.
Although this
Ventura,
80s fad
California.
has died down, it has never really disappeared. Breaking has had a continual influence in the hip-hop, rap, and pop music world. In 2004, breakdancers got down at the Vatican before Pope John Paul II. Breakdancing will also be breaking its way into Paris during the 2024 Olympics. So be
What?
prepared.
So breakdancing is going into the Olympics, but they're going to remove wrestling, an original Olympic sport, and weightlifting? Really? Wow, let's bring that back. That's crazy.
Before Pope John Paul II. Breakdancing will also be breaking its way into Paris during the 2024 Olympics, so be prepared for a comeback. We are probably going to see kids, grandparents, and even dogs busting a move. If you were a kid in the 80s, then the word parachute means
Parachute
something.
pants.
Most
MC
kids played
Hammer.
with a huge parachute in PE class, but
Yeah,
there
we
was
played
something
with
that was
those.
even bigger. Parachute pants. These were
Never
made of the
parachute
same
pants
nylon
guy.
that real parachutes were made of, but they often had pockets with zippers.
I grew up in
These
Southern
pants
California,
made a statement
near
for a
the beach,
couple
so
years in the
I was more of an
1980s.
OP.
If you had
and
these
Vans
rad
guy.
pants, then it meant you were bad. For all you youngsters
That picture is awesome because I had a friend that looked just like that.
there, that meant that it was good. The pants were usually tight-fitting but breathable, and they became extremely popular when everyone was trying out their latest breakdancing moves. These cool pants came in a variety of colors, but the most popular ones were black, gray, and red. As quickly as they came in, they went out, and the public moved on to the next
Wall
fad.
paneling.
This is one 80s fashion trend that has never made a
Is that
comeback.
a members only jacket?
Perhaps one day they will parachute back
Wow.
down into style. The Rubik's Cube is a 3D combination puzzle
Never-
that was invented in
never was
Hungary
into the
in
Rubik's Cube.
1974. It was originally called the Magic Cube, but it was licensed by the inventor Erno Rubik to be sold by the Ideal Toy Company in 1980. Each side of the cube had a different color, and the object of the puzzle was to make all sides match their respective color. The Rubik's Cube became super popular in the
Never.
1980s, and almost every
I don't think I
household
spent more
had
than
one.
maybe 10 minutes
Some
in my
people
entire
could solve
life
this
playing
puzzle
with
very
one.
quickly, while others could not. If you were one of those that couldn't, then you might have just peeled the stickers off and then placed them back on there in matching
I had a
order.
friend who painted them.
You could have also taken it apart and put it back together.
Really?
Eventually, cheat books came out to help people solve it, but some people still said this was useless. Throughout the years, there have been multiple competitions where people test their skills in solving it
I remember
quickly.
that. Yeah.
The world record was set in 2018 at 3.47 seconds.
Wow.
Some people consider this puzzle the original fidget toy, as it came out long before any fidget spinner could ever think about.
That makes sense.
The Rubik's Cube may not be as popular with the masses as it once was, but they are still a beloved classic puzzle. Over 100 million cubes have been sold since they emerged on the market.
Wow. 100 million? About 10 bucks a
Pac-Man
pop.
is one of the longest-running, best-selling, and highest-grossing video game franchises in history.
Was never
This
really into
game
video
was
games.
released on May 22nd,
Southern California, you
1980,
just
and
go
it
outside and
quickly
play.
took the world by storm in arcades as well as the Atari
Maybe
gaming
occasionally,
system.
yeah, like
The franchise
Pizza Hut or
issued
the
folders, pencils,
Shakey's
shirts,
Pizza in
bed sheets,
Ventura.
board games, and more. There was even a hit song called Pac-Man Fever.
I remember that. It was
Pac-Man
horrible.
remains one of the most recognizable
Funny,
video
but
game
horrible.
characters in history and is a 1980s cultural icon. This yellow pie-shaped Pac-Man character travels around a maze eating dots and trying to avoid ghosts that are hunting him.
Made a
The game
little
was a breakaway from the
cameo in
space
Guardians
or
of the
shooting
Galaxy.
style arcade games that were out at the time. In 1982, an estimated 30 million Americans spent more than $8 million a week playing Pac-Man.
Damn, 8
They
million
were
a
feeding
week?
quarter after quarter into machines
25 cents at a
located in
time?
arcades, pizza joints, bowling alleys, and bars. People were playing this game so much that many towns across the U.S. passed statutes or regulations to restrict the games.
Really?
Des Plaines, Illinois banned people under the age of 21 from playing the game unless they were accompanied by their parents.
That's stupid.
Marshfield,
So you could join the
Massachusetts
Marines,
banned
but
the
you couldn't
video
play
game
Pac-Man.
outright. Other towns and
Wow.
cities issued licensing and zoning to restrict arcades from selling food or being too close to a school.
I could see that.
Parents became worried about kids being consumed with the game and not focusing on studies. This is a
Like
very similar
tablets and
thought
iPhones
process to
today.
what many parents think about kids with tablets and phones.
Oh.
And 70s kids don't
My
judge
psychic
too
abilities,
quickly.
I'm buying lottery
This
tickets
also
later.
happened in many places across the U.S. with pinball machines.
Yeah.
The 1980s changed the way we look at music forever. MTV debuted just after
Definitely.
midnight
MTV
on August 1st,
was
1981 with the broadcast of Video Killed the Radio Star. In the beginning, the network struggled because the music video library was somewhat shallow. More and
Changed
more
everything.
artists started
Changed the way
making music
movies were made.
videos, and
Changed
the
the way
additional
commercials were
exposure
made.
in the video format
Changed
on
the way the news
MTV
was
could propel these
presented to the
artists into
people.
superstardom. Michael Jackson
became
became the
quick.
king of MTV with his hit video singles Billie Jean, Beat It, and Thriller. The network brought success to newcomers
really
such
into
as
Madonna.
Madonna and Duran Duran, but it also renewed life to veteran performers
little
such
band
as
from
ZZ
Texas,
Top,
ZZ
Peter
Top.
Gabriel, and Tina Turner. Later in the decade, the channel featured specialty shows such as Headbangers Ball, Yo MTV Raps, and Remote Control. By the mid to late 90s, the original channel was airing programming that had nothing at all to do with music.
Yeah.
But to 80s
I mean,
kids,
is MTV still on
will
the air?
always be a special memory.
I don't even know if it's still on.
Keeping up with the time was important, but so was looking cool. And that is where Swatch watches come in. The Swiss watch
Swatch.
industry was
Never had a
suffering
Swatch.
due to the
Back-
rise of digital quartz watches. They were much cheaper to produce
had-
and purchase by the consumers. In order to combat this new
I
trend,
had this
Swatch
Seiko.
came
I've
out
had
with
this
some
Seiko
new
since I was
fashionable
18,
watches
which
that
makes
made
it
wearing them totally
about
cool.
40 years old. I had
They
this
came
one
in
when I was
all
the
sorts of
Marines.
colors and
That's how old
designs.
this one is.
Some people even chose to wear more than one. They were meant to
never really
appeal
got
to
into
the
the
younger
swatches.
generation, and many people collected them. One other popular trend was rubber bands that would cover the watch
But when I was
face
in,
and
I used to coach
protect it.
basketball.
These also
China,
came in an
and
array of
Swatch was still
colors,
pretty
and many
huge
people
over
would
there
have two twisted across
in,
the face of the watch.
2015,
Swatch watches
2010
are
to
still being made
2015.
today, although they aren't quite as popular as they were in the 1980s.
Wow.
The 1980s was all about big hair.
Big hair.
There were many different styles, and what you chose to do with it said a
Hairspray,
lot
which
about
was
who you
flammable,
were.
by the way.
Maybe you went for the rocker look, or maybe you went punk. But some of the more popular styles were the mullet,
Wow.
high top, Gumby, Jerry curls, or the asymmetrical style. No matter what
Daddy
you
Kane.
had, it had to be big.
Knew lots
Many
of
women
girls
in the
with that
80s
exact
crimped their hair
hairstyle
like
there.
Debbie Gibson or wore it curly like
And
Whitney
that hair.
Houston. In order to look good, it took lots of hair products, and the most popular one was hairspray.
Salt and pepper.
Tons of Aquanet hairspray was used in order to get those big wings and tidal wave bangs. The 80s was all about going big, and the
Motley
bigger it
Crue
was,
action.
the better. I'm sure that anyone
Back when
who
they
had
were young
stocks in
and skinny.
Aquanet became super rich after the 80s. For a while, it seemed like a competition. Who could
Wow.
grow it longer or make it stand up taller? Mullets seem to be making a bit of a comeback, but the
Mullets? I
huge
don't
hair
think
for
that's a mullet.
ladies is still a thing stuck in the 80s. The 1980s was a special decade, especially for those that experienced it. There were many items that changed the
Get it
world
right.
forever. Some of these may be long gone, but you never know when they'll reappear.
Fun
Just
band,
like the
Poison.
mullet, the decade will never truly die. I hope you enjoyed this little walk down memory lane, and make sure you stay tuned because there will certainly be a part 2. Thank you so much for watching.
Wow. Wow. So for all my 80s people out there, comment down below which fads you were victim of. And actually, a lot of these are probably making a comeback with that, the TV show, the Stranger Things. So at least a lot of the fashion I've seen has come back on that. Good stuff. Good stuff. I'm happy to say I was only victim to a couple of those. And none of them, obviously the hair, not an issue anymore. But good stuff. If you like what you saw today, hit the like button. Definitely leave me a comment below. Subscribe. Turn on the post notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And this is Coach Michael 101, where we listen to music, watch movies, and check out other miscellaneous mayhem and have some fun along the way. I look forward to seeing you next video.